Hi everyone, my name is Holly. I am here today to talk about some wintry, holiday-ish reads. I'm going to be talking about Christmas and I'm going to be talking about books to read when it's cold out. I'm going to start off with the Christmassy books. The first one I want to talk about is called The Legend of Holly Claus by Brittney Ryan. That's a middle grade story following Santa Claus's daughter named Holly. So basically, once upon a time, a boy made a wish unlike any other, and Santa and Mrs. Claus had a child, and she's raised in, the North Pole. The story follows her when she's gotten a bit older and she decides to go out into the mortal world, into Victorian New York, and she's interacting with the world. And it is such a beautiful, lovely Christmas story. Like, it's so pure and it's so sweet. It's a book I've never heard of anywhere else. I probably only found it because my parents picked it up because the character's name was Holly and my name is Holly. That's the only reason I know about this book, and it is such a treasure. I would highly recommend this for a nice Christmassy, warm, fuzzy feeling kind of book. The next book I want to recommend, sort of a two-parter. So first of all, if you've never read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, you should definitely do that. It's such a fun classic. A lot of people want to read classics, but they don't know where to start, and some of them are less accessible than others. I think A Christmas Carol is a very accessible book to get into. It's not too dense, it's not hard to understand, and it's a story you're sort of familiar with already, like a plot, so you kind of know where it's going, and it's still an enjoyable read. The second part to this recommendation is a adaptation of The Christmas Carol by Cynthia called The Afterlife of Holly Chase. This one is playing with the Christmas Carol storyline, and basically our main character, Holly Chase, 5 years ago, was visited by 3 ghosts, and she was told to repent her ways, and she didn't. And she died. So now she works for something in the afterlife called Project Scrooge, where she's basically part of this scheme to, research a person that is not living a good life and to unleash the 3 spirits upon them on Christmas Eve so that hopefully they will change their ways. And she's sort of just bored by the whole thing until this year. This year's different. I have to say, with this recommendation, it is not like the greatest book ever written, but it is so much fun. It just plays so hard with the Christmas Carol trope. We've got a unlikable main character, and it was just such a ride to read. The last Christmas book I want to recommend is My True Love Gave to Me, a collection of 12 holiday stories that's edited by Perkins. We've got a bunch of different stories, a lot of Christmas, some Hanukkah, some I think there's even a winter solstice story, and it was just really fun to read. It's like just a nice little book to pick up throughout December sort of thing to get you in the mood for Christmas and the holidays. The next 4 books that I've got here are books that I consider a good choice when it's really cold out and you gotta sit inside, especially when it's going to be a long winter with 2020. So for me, that's books that are just going to encourage me to sit down, hunker down with something warm and cozy and just dive in. I really like the idea of getting into fantasy, especially like just binging an entire series or something. And there's something about the Grisha series by Leigh Bardugo that really feels wintry to me, perhaps because it's that sort of Russian-inspired mythology in here. But this, in case you don't know, is sort of a classic YA trilogy. We've got characters with powers in this Russian-inspired setting, and there's a lot of play with the moral grayness of our main character. This is a very beloved series on BookTube. I'm sure you've heard of it before, but it's just something about it that encapsulates the feeling of winter for me. And then considering the fact that the second Nikolai book coming out is apparently the last book in the Grisha universe that she's going to be writing, I think it's a good time to go back to the basics, go back to the beginning, especially if you haven't read it yet, and give this series a try. Following along the lines of being stuck inside because it's cold, I really associate historical fiction with winter, like being able to sit down and just sink my teeth into something a little bit dense. Bearing that thought, I have Darken by Kiersten here, and this is a historical reimagining of the story of Vlad the Impaler if Vlad was a woman. So it actually follows her across her life. In this book, she's named Lada, and we also follow her brother Radu, and it is such a stunning exploration of the culture of the time, of the history of the time. I thought the books were just so well crafted. The story, the writing, the characters, there is nothing about this series that I dislike. It just sucks you in and you feel for these characters so much. Radu is my child, and even Lada, who is a very morally, and I wouldn't even say she's like a morally gray character, she's bad, but we get to see how she progresses to Vlad the Impaler mythology, and she's so compelling. That's what I think really drives these books, is that the characters are so compelling. The next book might not seem like a wintry book at first glance. It's about mermaids. Stay with me. By Sarah Porter. It's called Lost Voices, and this is a very dark mermaid story. So basically, and trigger warning for abuse, sexual assault, child abuse, all the things, all the trigger warnings. Basically, in this world, mermaids are born from girls that have been attacked or hurt in some way. So they are hurt and so broken, they cry, they have access to water, they turn into water, end up in the ocean, become mermaids, and then when they are in the ocean, they use their voices to hunt down men and kill them as revenge. It's a dark story. There's just something about winter that does not make me want to pick up light and fluffy stories. So a story dealing with such a heavy topic, with such dark and cold circumstances, like this is not a, warm tropical mermaid story. This is a heavy hitter, and I think it's fantastic. I think the writing is phenomenal. Final book I've got here is called Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardoust. Basically what you need to know about this book is that it is a feminist retelling of Snow White that completely turns your expectations on its head, of sort of exploring two women that are set out from the beginning to be rivals, and the relationship that forms from there. And it is such a beautiful book. The characters are what really wins this story. It gives me all the wintry feels. We've got one of the girls who's made of snow and another one who has a glass heart. It's a standalone book, which I think makes it really great to just sit down and consume as quickly as possible, all in one sitting if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you check out some of these recommendations. Consider subscribing so you can see more bookish things from me, and have a great day.